All right, up first, Marvel Studios is truly going all in on their first feature film this year, Deadpool and Wolverine. According to Variety, the studio plans to push for acknowledgement during awards season, submitting for the Golden Globes, SAG Awards, Critics' Choice, and even the Oscars. It's Hugh Jackman's performance as Wolverine that is driving the decisions, as the studio plans to position the actor for the awards in the supporting actor category. Among other categories, the box office buster will likely find a spot in the Golden Globes' new category of cinematic and box office achievement. If Hugh Jackman is going to do this until he's 90, is this award season push sensible?
Sensible, questionable in my opinion, and I do want to provide the caveat that I loved Deadpool and Wolverine. I love that movie. Such a breath of fresh air, such a great summer blockbuster, such a swan song for the Fox universe characters, and it was great to have Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. And I was one of those people that was a little bit on the fence. I was like, hey, do we really need to bring this guy back after Logan? And I was happy to be wrong. It was such a great performance from him. He really lended the movie a lot of heart that it needed. That being said, you got to love these headlines, because when I saw the headline, I couldn't help but laugh and do a little bit of a facepalm. Like, I love Marvel movies. Marvel movies are some of my favorite movies every year. Superhero movies and genre films are some of my favorite every single year. But whenever I go to make my top 10 list and, think about awards contenders and stuff like that, I do have to admit that typically MCU movies are not at the number one spot for me. And Deadpool would fall in a similar category. It's going to make my top 10, top 5, possibly. But as far as awards go, especially with the Oscars, I think it is, worthy of some technical awards, but that's it. From the acting side of things, SAG seems a little more appropriate. Golden Globes is a possibility, but I got to kind of wonder where this is coming from. I don't think it's coming from Hugh Jackman. I don't know if it's coming from Sean Levy, so that kind of leaves, one culprit, and that's Ryan Reynolds. And, I love him as Wolverine, but we've talked a lot about how he's kind of, he's got his fingers in so many different things, and he's really become more of a brand than just an A-list actor. And I think the clout might be getting a little bit to his head. Again, I don't know if it can't be him alone. There have to be other people that co-sign on this as well. Kevin Feige's probably in the mix there as well. It's not the first time that Marvel movies have been up for awards like, Best Supporting Actor, Best Actor, even Best Picture, where I'm not going to say anything bad about Wakanda Forever, but I was surprised that it went the distance in terms of getting a nomination for Best Picture. So I wouldn't say that about all comic book movies, though, in general. Like, I look back to 2019 when Joaquin Phoenix won the Oscar for Joker, well-deserved. Or even thinking about Hugh Jackman here, if they wanted to nominate him for a Logan performance, I would have done it in 2017 for Logan. So, I'll be interested to hear what everybody else thinks. Hopefully I'm not the negative, the sole negative opinion here, but we'll see.
Jay Scotty, you just hate comic book movies. You just hate them. You just hate them all.
You got me.
You don't think they're real art.
What a strong bias take you have.
Now do 5-star reviews about how negative Jay Scotty is.
Yeah.
Well, there's being negative, and then there's being realistic, and you're being realistic. I mean, because I started thinking when I saw this, because it caught me off guard too. I was like, all right, it can't seriously be thinking that this performance, and again, this is not a knock to Hugh Jackman, but you can't, when you're talking about the Oscars, you're talking about a different type of movie, and you're talking about the Academy, and they vote for specific things, and they don't vote for specific things. And when you're thinking about who you're going to put up, you have to take all that into contention. Again, you're not judging a movie. It's just a Marvel movie is not made with the intention of trying to win an Oscar. It's just not its goal. It's got different goals. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's not making the genre better or whatever. It's just, it's surprising to see that kind of idea thrown out there as a push, because I went and looked like 2025 Oscar Best Supporting Actor predictions and tried to find some lists, and you got to scroll pretty far down to find Hugh Jackman, even if he's not on there at all. You've got a lot of lists that have 20, 25, 30 people laid out, and he's not even on that list at all. And so it's it's one thing to be negative and all of that, but we're not doing that. It's just realistically, you have to remember what the Oscars are. You have to remember how these awards typically fall. And I commend them, I guess, on some level for making the campaign. I mean, Oscar campaigns are always this like really bizarre sideshow in Hollywood where you host parties and you invite people out to try to drum up support for a movie. We really saw Barbie and Oppenheimer do it like just to the max level that they could do it last year in their own Oscar campaigns. And it's just how far will that go, right, with Deadpool and Wolverine? Is this a feeler to kind of be like, what's the interest level? Like, what do people talk about when they hear this? Or is this a legit sort of, no, we're not throwing out a feeler, or we're really going for it? And if so, what does that campaign look like? So again, we all love Hugh Jackman on this podcast. We all loved Deadpool and Wolverine on this podcast. But I really can't imagine a world where there's a serious Hugh Jackman contention for Best Supporting Actor, just based on what the Oscars are and how those awards typically are given out.
I agree. I think that, I feel like it might be a misguided attempt. Like you said, I think it's not Hugh Jackman pushing for this. It might be a misguided attempt on the studios or Ryan Reynolds' part of being like, hey, Hugh, you can get awards here too. You know what I mean? Like if he were to win Best Supporting Actor for this, he'd be like, hey, don't you want to keep working with Marvel? 90 years, baby. Come on. I don't, or till you're 90. Sorry. But 90 years would be very impressive. I'd like to see the 106-year-old physique of Wolverine. But anyway.
That's method acting right there.
But no, I think that's completely, you guys are completely spot on. And I also think that this is another case of, similar to the discussion we had about The Bear a few weeks ago, maybe miscategorized because it's a two-hander. I don't think that he is a supporting actor in this movie. He's one of the two leads, I would say. Sure, it's the third of a Deadpool movies, but it's called Deadpool and Wolverine. They have pretty similar, I don't know. Deadpool, Wolverine probably has less screen time, but I don't know. I wouldn't say that he's a lesser part of the movie to me. No.
My Pollyanna take on this is kind of that maybe this is, whether it's Ryan Reynolds, Sean Levy, Disney, Feige, Marvel, whoever, pushing for this, kind of their acknowledgement of Hugh Jackman's commitment to the role over several decades. But if you're going to do that, he's such a storied actor in his own right, both stage and screen. Like, why not just go for maybe like a lifetime achievement kind of award, which that always brings up issues with people too, especially if they're on the younger side, which Hugh Jackman's not old. I think he's still in his 50s. And then it's like, well, have I achieved everything I can achieve? You know, then there's that kind of existential dread drama that it drums up.
We reached the existential dread part of the podcast early today.
Yeah, this is really early.
Check
for
it
that.
off on your bingo cards, kids. But that's kind of how I viewed it when I saw it. I think it's kind of a wild pull regardless, and I do think that whatever award categories the movie gets submitted for, it might end up sort of getting the Barbie treatment, and the difference between those two movies could not be more far, because Barbie was more like, we're doing this groundbreaking thing and it's fresh and it's different and it's new and it's never been seen before. And then Deadpool and Wolverine is, at the end of the day, a comic book movie. And yes, it was great. Right. And yes, it was fun. And yes, it was wonderful. But that's kind of a concern I have, them being like, oh, it's getting Barbied. And it's like, no. Let's not try to compare these two. But we'll see. That Golden Globes category for the box office is definitely something they've introduced to give crowd favorite movies some accolades. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's nice to say, hey, you were something that the people loved to see. And so here's an award for that, not a reward. They've been rewarded plenty with our billions of dollars. Here's an award to show that matters too.
Well, I am reminded, too, of Robert Downey Jr. here in the sense of that he took on this role in a Marvel Cinematic Universe for so long and was really known for that role, stepped away from it, took on his role in Oppenheimer, moved away and separated himself from the role that he had been playing for so long and had sort of become synonymous with, won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and now he's back in the fold, and he's going to be leading this new age of the Marvel Cinematic Universe on the other side. And to me, like, I see if this is truly a goal for Hugh Jackman, if like winning an Oscar is something, it's obviously important to everybody, but if this is like something that he really wants and really wants to go for, there's a path for that for someone like him. Like, he's earned this space in Hollywood where he's done a lot of things. He's shown a very wide variety of skill on the screen, from things like The Greatest Showman to playing Wolverine to all these types of things that he's done. So there's a path there. I mean, if that's something he wants to do, I mean, Downey took that role with the Oscar in mind. Like, and same with Cillian Murphy. Like, they knew they were going for it. Nolan, all of them. Like, they knew that was where this movie was going to lead, was for them to get an Oscar. And so you have to kind of consider that too. Is like, if Hugh Jackman wants to win an Oscar, he can certainly go after that at some point. I just don't know if it's going to be for this film particularly. And I do want to mention real quick too that in the chat, TV Movie Guy asked, does it cost money to submit a film to the Oscars? It does not. As long as it's played in theaters and it's not like a streaming movie or a DVD or anything or whatever. DVD, what am I talking about? You get all the kids are like, what's a DVD?
Millennial talk.
But yeah, no, it does not cost anything, but if you want to be serious about it, you do have to lead a campaign, which will cost you a handful of millions of dollars, probably $3 to $5 million, to do a successful campaign to try to schmooze enough people into being a serious contender. So there is a cost, I guess, associated with it, but there is not just a fee to submit a movie to the Oscars as long as it's had a theatrical run.
And on the note of EGOTs, because, we had to talk about that a couple weeks in a row, this would be the O in his EGOT, or an Oscar win would be his O, because he has the other three. So, wow. I mean, again, I'm with you guys. Like, I don't think this is him doing this, because he just doesn't seem like that kind of actor, but you never know at the end of the day.
Well, I do think the comparisons to Robert Downey Jr. are pretty appropriate, and just thinking about Oppenheimer and Haley, what you brought up about Barbie and Oppenheimer really driving the race last year, and we did have the Golden Globes, introduce that new category for box office. But for the last few years, the Oscars has really been talking about, do we want to do like, most popular with the public kind of awards? And from what I understand, the viewership of last year's award ceremony saw an uptick in viewership. So as much as we're saying maybe this is coming from Ryan Reynolds, maybe this is coming from the Academy. Maybe they do want to, have a high profile movie like Deadpool and Wolverine and a high profile actor like Hugh Jackman in the mix to get that viewership up.